to progress. And the reason for that is that the open source software gives you a lot of flexibility, so you can customize things to your own needs. It's also infinitely cheaper than having proprietary software. And so many governments are moving in this direction. I'm involved in one in Vietnam. Vietnam has a policy where it wants all of its ministries to operate on open source kinds of software, and we're helping them put that together. And they've already started to see how this would really change their operations.
Okay. There's currently another one on open source. Are you vulnerable as a government to security risks and leakages of information to use open source?
The short answer is everyone's vulnerable, even if they're not using open source. You're only as good as the latest attack, and as we all know, attacks are getting more sophisticated and that sort of thing. But theoretically, let me say that the open source software can be as secure as the proprietary if you put into place the necessary cybersecurity features. But in my view, none of them are safe. So it's you know, you take your chances, I guess. I should add, though, on that question, a lot of defense departments around the world have a lot of open source software applications, and so they found ways to make them secure.
Okay. There's one on the crowdsourcing. How information collected in USA by how information collected by citizens remains accountable for action in USA?
This is on in a crowdsourcing context?
Yes, crowdsourcing.
Okay. Well, there's various ways to do it. I think it works better at lower levels of government where citizens and decision makers are closer together. But I can give you some examples. One of the things that was happening is that in our country was that airports were built a long time ago out in rural areas, oftentimes near the ocean. They had beautiful views, all of those things, and people weren't living around there. But as time passed, people started to build houses, and they came closer and closer to these airports, which meant that they had noise pollution, and jet aircraft dumped their fuel all over the airstrip before they land, all kinds of nasty things. And so one government did a crowdsourcing exercise where they said, okay, how do we solve this problem? And the citizens came up with a solution that realtors, meaning people who sell your homes for you, have to notify you of the negative consequences of living near an airport. And so they actually created laws and standards and rules that said what these realtors would have to do. And most of you would think it was kind of strange that you wouldn't notice these airplanes flying so close to your house, but in fact many people didn't notice that. So these laws and regulations really helped in that regard. The federal government in the United States tends to use the crowdsourcing when they want to solve a problem or get somebody's opinion about something. So it's used to design policy or design programs or figure out what's wrong with programs and try to correct them. So it works okay, but I have to say that many civil servants are nervous about doing that because they basically are opening up the government decision-making to outsiders, and you never really know what they're going to say or what they're going to do, and it creates all kinds of issues about censorship, whether you keep some people's comments from entering into this public dialogue and all of those kinds of things. unfortunately, I think the crowdsourcing is new, and so we don't have a lot of law and policy to guide it yet, and I think that's probably true in most countries.
Yeah. I think it has also been recently used in seeking, the riots, street riots, to curb the street riots in UK. They use the crowdsourcing to, I think, capture about 1,000 rioters.
The UK uses it a lot at the local council level for gathering information and so on.
Okay, there's another short one. Who does the CIO reports to in USA? Again.
Well, the chief of the entire government, the CIO for the entire government, reports to the director of the Office of Management and Budget. So that means that he is reporting to the head of the president's office that controls all management and all budget. So it's there's nobody between him and the top decision maker. So the reason for that was that President Obama wanted to make sure that his open government initiative received the highest priority, and so he created the position right underneath the head decision maker for the whole government, and that's probably why it's was able to turn around and become more effective and conquer some of those problems that I had originally talked about.
Okay, I think we can take one more question, perhaps. Okay, what kind of changes inside the government is needed to fully adopt this IT management and planning solutions and citizens collaboration?
Well, I think one of the major things is changing the culture of organizations. This is what I think happens. When a new government is elected, the civil service looks at these new people in power and tries to decide whether they're serious or not. So oftentimes the civil service will wait quite a while until it starts to implement things. And so a main thing to do when you're dealing with the civil service and bureaucracy is that when you take office, you have to have a strategy and a vision, and then you have to actually work with the civil service to implement it. And to do that, you have to get their buy-in. They have to believe that you're serious and you're going to keep working on it. So I think that's the major thing. And I think that's a good thing because one person can literally make an agency or a ministry work quite well in this area if they spend the time and put in the effort to make it happen. And as I said, you've got these generational issues where you have people who are getting ready to retire don't really want to take on a whole new system. They want to stay with the status quo. They want to stay with what they have. Younger people want to try new things, and so somebody needs to really push them all along so they work as a team and get things right. The second thing is that I think we have, by we I mean everyone, has a great deal of IT sophistication, and the issues we deal with in government are not technical ones. IT can solve any technical one, I think, but the problem we have is that managers and policymakers and others don't know how to use IT. Some of them are afraid of IT. Some of them think it costs too much. Some of them don't intend to be in an agency or a ministry more than a year or two. And so you have all of this leadership that may or may not like what's going on in IT. And so Obama did a good thing when he made the CIO at the very top level of government, because then everybody sort of listened to him. If he would have put that person more down in the bureaucracy, I don't think anything would probably happen. As an example of this, some of you know about enterprise architecture. That came into being in the late 1980s, and in most governments, it's still not fully implemented. And that's been, whatever it is, 30 years. And the reason for that is it has no standard bearer, it has no leader, no policy that everybody is pushing consistently. So what happens in agencies is somebody does some enterprise architecture work and somebody else doesn't, but they're not connected together.
Okay, well that brings us towards the end of the webinar. I would like to thank Dr. Rez on behalf of MILE for his time and willingness to share valuable information and experiences with our participants. Also, thanks to all of you who participated. We're glad you could join us today and hope the session was helpful for you. We will be emailing you the link to a recorded version of this webinar in a couple of days once it is updated on our YouTube channel. The soft copy of the presentation Dr. Bus gave tonight will also be emailed to you. Note, our other upcoming high-impact programs in year 2012 on high-performance governments, HPG2, are currently accepting applications for enrollment and selection. Dr. Bus will also be coming to Madinah as a distinguished speaker for this program. Please do visit our website www.mile.org to get more details about these programs and our upcoming webinars. Tomorrow, September 25th, same time, we are conducting another webinar on the topic of creating value through mergers and acquisitions by Dr. Matti Suominen of Aalto University, Finland. By the way, he's also an adjunct professor of finance at INSEAD. So Dr. Bus, once again, thank you very much for your time. I'll be switching back as a presenter organizer to conclude this webinar, and everybody will be automatically dismissed out. Thank you all, and thank you especially Dr. Bus.